Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Franklin Board of Education meeting for Wednesday, April 29th, 2026. We will start out with the ceremonial oaths of office, please. We'll start with Mrs. Eckhart.
But wait, is that your husband? Does he want a better video?
Better video. Do you, Catherine J. Eckhart, having been appointed to the office of school board member, swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin, and faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of said office to the best of your ability, so help you God? Congratulations. To the board.
Mrs. Yank, please.
Do you, Mary S. Yank, having been appointed to the office of school board member, swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin, and faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of said office to the best of your ability, so help you God?
I do.
Congratulations.
That was exuberant.
Yeah, Katie and Mary and families, if you want pictures,
Do you want to?
now's the time.
Yes, get a picture.
Picture on the board.
Yeah, we'll do that too.
You want a picture? Yeah, get a picture.
Yes, you do.
He doesn't.
Dave will have it up.
If you want to take a picture with your camera, I can do that for you.
Oh, sure. Thank you.
Well, that might be better.
Okay, whatever, what are you doing?
Yeah, let's use that.
We'll get back here.
He's got
We'll
his
do both.
hands on too, so he knows how to use it.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Can I go to
Yep.
go on?
Go watch baseball.
Go watch some baseball.
One, two, three. One, two, three.
Perfect.
Thank you.
No, wait, we gotta do a whole board picture.
We're doing our all board picture now?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, we can do that quick. Four tallest, I'll let you guys fight it out. Four tallest in the back.
We are not a tall.
Not very good, you're not
We're
super
actually
tall.
all pretty short, yes. I'm the
Might
shortest
not
in my
be
family.
one of
Here.
You and me?
There you go. There you go. Yeah, if you guys tilt in, that's fine.
May I think, maybe it will be good at.
Yeah, that's perfect. There we
Right,
go.
there we
There
go.
you go.
Yes, what gentlemen.
Where we belong.
All right.
Crop us all later.
Good old days.
One.
Okay.
Oh, wait. One, two, three. One,
Oh,
two,
you're
three. Hold on one second.
I think I closed them, so that was direct. Yeah.
You want the glasses off?
According to
It's good.
Chad.
Glasses off is fine.
Gla-
Or it's okay if they have them on. All right, one, two, three. One, two, three. Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
People would recognize me with my glasses
I was just gonna say, I don't look like myself. But I'm
Like
like,
he said, he did the cover. That's it.
oh,
You can fix
we
it.
can Photoshop the glare.
Okay.
Yeah, move the background, move your hair.
No, it started working today.
All right, the meeting has been properly posted. Could we have a roll call, please, Dr. Beer?
Mr. Sprague,
Here.
Mrs. Sapersky,
Here.
Dr. Khan,
Here.
Mrs. Everhart, Ms. Eckhart, I'm sorry,
Here.
Mrs. Yank,
Here.
Mrs. Larson,
Here.
and I'm present.
Thank you. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made by Mrs. Yank, seconded by Dr. Khan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We'll move on to the election of board officers. We'll start with president, move on to vice president, treasurer, and clerk. Everybody has papers or ballots in front of them, red for president, so on and so forth. We will call for nominations for each office. You do not need to, the nominations do not need a second. And then we will move on to vote. If there is only one nomination for an office, we will just have a voice vote for that office. And we'll start with president, and I would like to nominate Ann Sapersky for the office of president. Are there any other nominations for president? Are there any other nominations for the office of president? Are there any other nominations for the office of president? All right, then I think we can move ahead with a voice vote. Back up here, please.
Dr. Khan?
Aye.
Mrs. Larson?
Aye.
Mrs. Sapersky?
Aye.
Mr. Sprague?
Aye.
I vote aye. Mrs. Yank?
Aye.
Mrs. Eckhart?
Aye.
Thank you. And congratulations, Ann, you are now president of the board. So we will switch spots so that you can continue with the meeting. Right.
Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you, everyone. Here's your pen.
Thanks.
Moving on, I'm looking for a motion or a nomination for vice president. I would like to nominate Mike as vice president of the board. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations for vice president?
Well, that's good, because I don't want to move my seat again.
And then, Dr. Beer, we could have a.
Mrs. Eckhart?
Aye.
Mrs. Yank?
Aye.
I vote aye. Mrs. Sapersky?
Aye.
Mr. Sprague?
Aye.
Mrs. Larson?
Aye.
Dr. Khan?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Congratulations, Mike. Thank you for being vice president. Moving on, I'm looking for a motion to nominate for treasurer.
I'll nominate Dr. Khan for treasurer.
Are there any other nominations for treasurer? Any other nominations for treasurer? Any other nominations for treasurer? Hearing none, if we can have a vote.
Mr. Sprague?
Aye.
I vote aye. Mrs. Sapersky?
Aye.
Dr. Khan?
Aye.
Mrs. Eckhart?
Aye.
Mrs. Yank?
Aye.
Mrs. Larson?
Aye.
Congratulations, Dr. Khan, as treasurer.
Thank you.
So now looking for a nomination for clerk.
I'd like to nominate Mrs. Beer, Dr. Beer, as a clerk of the.
Are there any other nominations for clerk? Any other nominations for clerk? Any other nominations for clerk? Okay, we can take a vote.
Dr. Khan?
Aye.
Mrs. Sapersky?
Aye.
I vote aye. Mr. Sprague?
Aye.
Mrs. Larson?
Aye.
Mrs. Yank?
Aye.
Mrs. Eckhart?
Aye.
Thank you all.
So we do not need our ballots. Next on the agenda is the appointment of the CISA 1 board representative. Mike has been in that role. I would like to ask you to continue in that role if you would be so inclined.
I'd be honored. I have been on the CISA Board of Control for several years, so I will continue on that. We are not up for election. Franklin seat is not up for election this year.
Does anybody else have an interest in being on CISA? Okay. Great. That's yours, Mike. Moving on to F, the appointment of the WASB delegate. Once again, Mike is currently serving as the policy, what's the official title?
Policy and Resolutions Committee.
On the Policy and Resolutions Committee, so he will be at the assembly anyway. Would you like to be the delegate as well?
I'll be the delegate.
Would anybody else like to be the delegate? Angie's face gives her away. Okay. Hearing no objection, Mike will be the delegate.
Katie can be the backup.
Yeah, anybody can go to the assembly, the delegate assembly, but Mike would be the voting member for Franklin.
Sounds good.
Okay, G, appointment of SWSA representative. We are currently a member of SWSA, and I have been attending the meetings. Does anybody else want to? Don't all jump at once. Our contract is up in the summer. We'll be discussing continuing with that, but for right now, I will continue to attend those meetings. Next up is our policy committee. We do have a vacancy with Mrs. Wachowski having left the board, and I am willing to step back as well. So there are some openings or availability on the policy committee if anyone is interested in joining.
I would like to join the committee, please.
Great, Mary? Katie? as well?
And I'm happy to continue on the committee.
Oh, I wasn't gonna give you a choice, but okay. Sorry, I didn't even think about that. Okay. Debbie or Maksud or Mike, anybody with interest in the policy committee?
No, thank you.
I wouldn't be able to make daytime meetings.
Okay. So then our policy committee will be Dr. Beer, Mrs. Yank, and Mrs. Eckhart. Awesome, thank you guys. Designate depository for school funds. We have, I'm sorry, I don't have that pulled up. Oh, here we go. The school funds are BMO, LGIP, PMA, WISC, and ADM for checking account and then investment funds. And the investment funds for the referendum are through Ehlers and Ampersand. Any objections to any of those?
This is continuing with who we've had.
Right.
Okay. We will continue with those. And then designating those persons authorized to sign the checks, contracts, agreements, and purchase orders. Dr. Bennon?
I would say district administrator, capital D, capital A would be appropriate as defined in our terms through policy. That would mean it can be designated or delegated from me to Andy Cormier, whomever it may fit.
Thank you for that. Any objections or conversation about that? And then designate an administrator to assume specified responsibilities of the treasurer and of the clerk.
I would recommend in the same fashion. District administrator, capital D, capital A.
So as to delegate as needed. Any objection or conversation about that? Okay.
I think we should probably go with them.
Okay.
Do we need to take action?
It's not listed as
Dr.
an action
Bennett?
item.
No.
Is it like an action item we need an official vote?
I think you could take a vote to take action on what went on an election of board officers. It's pretty straightforward by policy to do that during this meeting, reorg meeting.
Thank you.
So looking for a motion for a vote then?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of the action we've taken through this election process?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All of these are good. Thank you. Community comment. Thank you.
Now
Is there anybody who has community comment tonight? You're welcome to come up. Not hearing any, we'll move on. Looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
second.
Motion made by Mr. Sprague, seconded by Mrs. Yank. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, continuing on. Our school board calendar. We have a regular Board of Education meeting on Wednesday, May 13th, here at the ECC at 6 o'clock. We have the Franklin Public Schools Business Partner Breakfast on Tuesday, May 19th. That'll be at Ascension Franklin at 7:30 in the morning. Franklin High School Honors Night on Wednesday, May 20th at 6:30 at the high school in the Saber Center. And then on Thursday, May 21st, if we haven't had enough fun, we'll have the district retirement dinner on Thursday, the 21st at Lux Golf Bays at 5:30. It's a busy week. The following week, we have a regular Board of Education meeting, Wednesday, May 27th, here at the ECC at 6. And then our June meeting of the Board of Education is Wednesday, June 17th here at the ECC also at 6 o'clock. And finally, Franklin's High School's graduation ceremony is June 20th at American Family Field at 4 p.m. District Administrator update, Dr.
Excellent.
Bennon.
Thank you. All right, so just to note for tonight, Mr. Cromie's excused because he is attending his daughter's concert at the Saber Center. And that also is a good reminder that it's Saber Center performance season, so all of our elementary schools will be performing, some starting last week already, so plenty of opportunities for entertainment, elementary, middle, and high school coming up at the Saber Center. Last week, Thursday, Andy Cromie, our district owner's rep, Mike Hacker, who's with us tonight, Paige from PRA, who's also was with us tonight, is Paige still with us? I think she stepped out. And our VJS representatives were able to attend the Milwaukee Business Journal nomination luncheon. So VJS had submitted the Cirque Building, Community Education Recreation Center, to be nominated for this award. So there were 80 nominees. We were one of the lucky about 15 or 20 that walked away with an award for educational addition. They used a different word I can't remember off the top of my head right now. It was kind of interesting, but great recognition anyways for the project that was done, for the community outreach within it, not only mentioning the studios, but the walking track, the exercise stations, the outdoor grounds, and the playground, along with diverse grounds, and the wellness clinic for staff. So a big shout out to VJS for recommending us for that nomination, and PRA, Mr. Hacker, and our whole team for our work on that project. This past Monday was our final professional development day of the school year, so we've had 6 of those. We do not take lightly that our school board and our community allows us those days without students to grow professionally. We've really increased our operations and what we offer. Dr. Mo runs a lot of the gear ups. She doesn't run them, but she organizes them to bring in outside vendors, or outside, I shouldn't say vendors, but groups to work with staff. So sometimes that could be from ATI for physical therapy. We've talked a little bit about that. It could be questions on health insurance, but then there's a whole nother gamut that we have our coaches and other staff that are training on different curriculum and teaching and learning aspects. So just a wonderful opportunity to come together in the morning as a full district and learn, and then in the afternoon, we're back in buildings working on school improvement specific goals, all tied to the coherence plan. So thank you to our community and the board that supports that time. Also that day, potential 4K families came in and got to see and meet some of our staff. And that was going to be outside, but it moved into the Cirque building due to the rain, but it was really fun to see the students in there, or future Sabres, I should say, enjoying some time with the staff and learning a little bit about school and what to look forward to. Monday night was Culture Fest, which was very well attended. Continues to see increased, not just families that are in the district, but also community members that maybe don't even have students in the district. So just a great outpouring from community. Continues to be a wonderful event celebrating culture, local talents, stories, and various foods. Our FHS construction project, as we saw if you're in the open house tonight, saw our first precast walls going up. So if you haven't driven by the high school, it's pretty neat to see. That'll continue to go on for the next couple months as we build out the boxes, as we call them, to the bigger part of the project on the north end. We're also in appreciation season. So last week was Admin Assistant Appreciation Day. So thank you to Darlene and all of our administrative assistants in the district for everything they do. This Friday is Administrator Appreciation Day. So our principals, assistant principals, directors, thank you for everything they do in leading. We have a wonderful group of administrators that really push our thinking and our work and our development forward. And then next week is All Staff Appreciation Day. So we could do all the days for all the separate titles. We really try to loop it all into next week. So if you're in any of our buildings, our PTOs, different parent groups in the other buildings, organizations within, really have a nice outpouring of food, snacks, words of appreciation. So if you have an opportunity, thank the amazing staff that work for all of our community. Congratulations to Abby Sprague. She's been recently named the Class of 27 Distinguished Young Woman for Franklin. So now she'll go on to compete at the state level. So thank you for representing FPS. And that's the biggest updates that are going on in the district as of recent.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Moving on, do we have any board liaison reports?
I went to one of the aforementioned concerts with my school, Ben Franklin, and it was a delight. And the Sabre Center was packed with families, which is always so delightful to see.
Excellent, thank you. Any other? I'll just report from the Education Foundation, which we've talked about before, but just a reminder that the golf outing is on June 12th. So anybody who hasn't signed up for that yet, it'll be a great day. And also our scholarships, we had, I want to say it was over 50 students respond for scholarships. So we are in the process of evaluating those, and that'll be at Honors Night, which as previously mentioned is Wednesday, May 20th. Those will be announced for that. And then also my liaison school is Franklin High School, so I had the opportunity last week to go and meet with Mr. Rolo, which was, always fun to meet with him and hear about what he and his staff are doing. And then as an added bonus, we got to go and hear from the students who took the spring break trip to Germany. If you recall, we approved that trip more than a year ago. And so had the opportunity to go and hear from them. They put together a great slideshow. I felt like I was on the trip. So yeah, Mrs. Carson and Gianna, Gabe, Cece, Alexander, and Chase did a great presentation telling me all about their trip and their adventures in Amsterdam, Lucerne, Munich, Salzburg, Heidelberg. I don't know. We ran out of time. It was a super trip. And what I really was struck with was the kids talking about how they were connecting things they learned in like history and not just German class, but like in their history classes to what they were seeing there, but then also how it relates to life today as we live it. So it just, and the kids said that themselves, that they didn't expect to have so much learning going on, and they really did have great connections and really bonded with each other as well. So it was a really fun day to be at Franklin and hear about all that. So that was super great. Any other school or community engagement reports?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Ann and I attended the interviews for transition students. They had mock interviews yesterday at the high school. It's just great to see how those kids have learned over the year, over the school year, over the last couple of years, and how they're gonna get out into society and do well. So that was nice, and also went to the Culture Fest on Monday night.
And Chad and I attended the Optimist Club celebration at the middle school. We celebrated the 8th grade student leaders, and we had custard and good questions and good conversation. I felt so proud of those 8th graders. They were so articulate. So that was a very fun time. And good custard, that's right.
The really important part.
I want to take an opportunity to shout out an interesting community engagement event that I was fortunate enough to be part of last Friday when, by virtue of my role with Forte, we were in the Sabre Center, and thanks to the extremely organized and diligent planning by Andy and his team, we kept over 250 patrons safe, calm, and collected during the tornado. And I can't say how proud I was. I'm saying it. I was super proud to be part of an organization in multiple ways that had such forethought, care, and diligence go into preparing for and debriefing after that event. It's not often people compliment you on how the tornado went, but people did.
Great,
We got a picture of her during the shelter smiling.
I was a little manic. I'm going to be honest.
Understandably. Excellent. Anyone else? Great. Thank you for all those reports. Moving on to reports, presentations, and school board business. We will have Franklin Forward Update number 7. Dr. Bennon and
Excellent.
friends.
Yeah, so friends, come up to the table. You have to grab a few more chairs. I think we're like too short. Probably know almost all, like our friends by name, and they're friendly. So as they get situated, we'll have a slideshow will pull up. So as we, the before we get started, I think it'd be great, maybe starting with Mitch, just go down the line and your name and your role again, even though probably most of the board knows you, but just to help us out.
I'm Mitch Kidd, project executive with CD Smith, kind of overseeing all of the construction project here.
Phil Jaskowski, Senior Project Manager with CD Smith.
Andy Daniels, Director of Buildings and Grounds for the Franklin Public Schools.
Mike Hacker with Cadence Consulting. I'm the district's owner's rep.
Andy Thompson, Community Experience Coordinator, Franklin Public Schools.
Nick Kent, Partner and Architect with PRA.
Mike Full, High School Principal.
Excellent. And Paige was with us earlier. She had to leave at this point, but I was very thankful she could help with the open house. Oh, yeah,
And
Devin was too,
yeah,
yes.
we forgot about him.
Yeah, don't tell him. He's very self-conscious about those items.
Yeah, he's probably streaming.
All right, so this is an exciting, I think every time I'm going to say this is the most exciting update we're going to bring to you about the referendum project, but it is to date, right, the most exciting update because a lot of, every point to now, we've been talking about things on paper, and now as you saw in the open house starting at 5:30, we were able to show you things coming into action. But I think that's, to me, that's the really exciting part. I'd say to this team, speaking on their behalf, like we've all been really excited, and if you've been at the high school and you've seen the Innovation Hub, where all of our ideas transform, it looks out into the courtyard that exists now, as you're saying, gloom, but it's not gloom, but it's gonna be amazing when it's done. And we always see the crane overarching the building, and it just kind of brings it all to life, and I think that's a really neat thing. And I think it's neat that our team is amazing and works well together. With Mr. Hacker right on, like the day after the referendum passed, I was like, can we breathe a minute? And Mike's like, we need a hub, we need a space at the high school, we need some TVs in it. I was like, this is a brilliant idea that I would not have thought about on, was that November 5th? I'm trying to remember back to what voting day was that year, but it was definitely the right thing and at the high school because the students can walk by, see us in there talking. Students and staff have been in there to give input throughout that. We'll talk about that a bit tonight, but I think that's one glimpse into the amount of detail that everybody on this team and those that aren't here with us tonight have brought to this project, and it's really invigorating to look at and talk about the work we've done. I was saying to Debbie during the open house part, you know, there's spots where we would just stop, and I'm excited to get community in the building to say, like, look at this space that we intentionally thought about. It can be a space under a staircase that maybe would have gone unthought about in a different building, but it isn't here. It could be a space off the walking path where we thought about how are we, if we have community walking, but they can't get in the weight room yet because wrestling's in there, and they can't get in the gym yet because basketball's in there, well, they can step off the walking track and they're gonna have a little exercise space, not even little, it's pretty good size, that they can use and equipment that they can get to. So I think what we won't see and notice till we fully walk in the building is that there's so much intentionality to so many spaces, and we still will talk about, like, we could have done a little more here. And it's like, no, we can't anymore. Like, the walls are up. We have to let that part of the project be, and it'll be great. So tonight we'll give you the latest update. Everybody's going to jump in where they have things to add. So we've talked through who's going to talk about what, but everybody needs to add in where you feel it best fit. Oh, sorry, I'm clicking on my screen and it's not helping your screen. All right, so our overview, we did the virtual experience. We're going to talk about that a little bit right now. The big part is that it's a phase 1 focus tonight. And that's because, and I can't repeat it enough, in the phases of this 3-year project, we have to build to the north first to be able to take out in the middle and build the next part. And to the north is the athletic facilities. So we'll focus on that tonight because that gets us through 27, kind of through the summer of 27 into fall of 27. And then we'll do a similar presentation as we move into the next phases. Probably next fall, starting to lead out of that. We'll still in that project, but also start talking more CTE. We'll re-hit timeline and why that impacts calendar. I know we've repeated that often, but I don't think we can repeat it enough. We'll talk about the student engagement summary. It'll be great for the team to talk about all of the ways we've engaged, and there's things we've done beyond what we'll even talk about tonight, and how that's extended even to local contractor pieces and how that's affected or determined how we went at our budgeting to be able to create opportunities where we can be focused on how we can bring in local participation, local contractors. And then, of course, next steps. So this first part's gonna encapsulate kind of our 5:30 to 6 o'clock so that people in the room now that maybe weren't earlier or those that watch back the meeting can kind of have an understanding. If you walked in the room at 5:30 tonight, we were looking at a series of 5 different stations and 5 different spaces. And we had the same overview map with the timeline to look at what those spaces are and then kind of outline what are the areas that come next, right? So again, why is it athletics tonight? When does career technical education spaces come? This kind of outlines the really colorful part. That's a lot of phase one. And then we start to move into that gray part in the middle that becomes part of phase two and beyond. We're not gonna sit on these screens too long because we'd probably start to get dizzy, but Chad did an amazing job of embedding the videos side by side. Again, thinking about, we want our Franklin Forward website to be a place where people can really land and be informed. So how are we bringing those renderings there? So natatorium was one of the spaces that we looked at. I think it's really fun to look outside on that sunny day and see that it's just an open space right now, but you're starting to see that pool basin being dug. You're starting to see some of the operational pieces that need to go into that pool going up as we start looking at walls. Another one we did was field house. So as you walked around and probably talked to any one of the people at the table, the wall that we're starting to see going up at the high school, right, is that north side of the field house. Not the full north side of the building yet, but the north side of the field house, which on the other side then has the multi-purpose or dance studio. So you're starting to see some of the action above ground in that space and below ground, to be honest. The third one you looked at was the competition gym. So this is the other side of that wall you're kind of seeing on the screen now. So this is the more, we have a basketball game going on for the night. This still seats nearly 1,900 if I'm remembering right. But we can still be using the field house for the other practices and plethora of activities that need it. I think that when this is complete, we've talked a lot about this being a really innovative idea that you don't see in other ones. We're not just a huge field house where if there's a basketball game on, everything else is shut down. We've really thought about, remember, we need those 19 gyms just to meet our current needs. We won't be there yet when this project's even done, but we've at least created spaces that can be used unilaterally when we're together. The walking track, previewed that a little bit, but that's gonna be kind of elevated above, looking down into the field house, down into the wrestling room, into the weight room, and some of the cardio studio area. So very open to community. I think there's been a lot of moments that this team's done a tremendous job also of saying, how will this be accessible to community? Where does this space lock out or be open to community before maybe 9 at night when practices aren't quite done yet or the weight room's not available yet? And then the final space is the weight room, which is adjacent to the wrestling room, which is, kind of looking down, and also a walk-in spot from the walking track that we saw in the previous video. So timeline-wise, the exciting part is that we are right here. So we've looked at this timeline for quite a while. As Mary said earlier, I can't believe it was November 2024. It's like, yep, it's been 17 months of planning to get us to this point, but it's been tremendous experience along the way. The next box that lit up there is part of our first phase of work. So this will be the first area we'll actually walk in and see complete. And this is the science labs that are being renovated, the 5 labs up in the high school at the current time, and how we're renovating those labs. Remember, ADA accessibility was a big concern in that area when we went to referendum, resolving that. We also wanted to create more small group room, kind of looking at that piece. The bigger phase that's lighting up now is really this whole CTE area that we just talked about. So when does that look like it's complete, right? That's, hopefully next summer, complete in July, so that we're moving equipment in and we're ready for students coming back after the 1st of September. It really kind of gives you that idea of why we need, when we just looked at all those construction videos, why we really need that 3 months almost of fully untouched time next summer to really tackle this work, and why we will welcome staff back August 24th already this year. Short summer, we keep calling it. The red part that's opening up now is kind of as we start moving into those next phases. So then we're getting into demolition of the middle part of the building, and we're getting into construction and renovation of those career technical education spaces. Some of the math rooms where language rooms are part of that work too. So that being another big presentation, we'll probably have a similar open house style format to the board meeting. This is just me again pointing out we have a really busy summer in 2027. So if Mother Nature can cooperate, that will help us. But it's going to be busy and it's going to be exciting, and we're thankful for the calendar that we were able to approve to make that happen.
And Ellie, I'll just note, if that's okay, I mean, the complexity of a project of this size for this duration, to be able to build this as a brand new building on a greenfield site is hard enough, let alone on an active school site with active activities going on. And A lot of logistics going into how to make the sequence work, how to build this and get it all done in this schedule, but also to limit the impact day to day. And so a lot of work with Mike and the team at the high school around, school schedules. We're heading next week into some more testing periods, so working closely with the construction crew to be very mindful and be ready for needed pauses or shuffling of construction activities to not impact or lessen impact on that. A lot of dialogue around temporary classrooms, so we have swing space. So as folks are displaced for periods of time, we have alternative locations for them. So a lot of foreshadowing of that planning as we're going along. So trying our best to make it look very easy to everybody here and in the community, but recognizing a lot of work behind the scene from the admin team to the teachers and a lot of patience out on site. But hopefully you're seeing that and that complexity is represented there.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And a really responsive team, which is a shout out to CD Smith, right? Like when jackhammering was a little heavy and pencils were jumping off a desk for like 1 hour of a day. Mike's not down there. Joel's taking action, who's our on-site person, and that all makes a difference, right? Like the team's on the same page and connected about that. It is a shout out to Mike too for Volo for all of your communication to staff about which doors to use and not use. And I think we're up to, I don't even want to talk about how many temporary classrooms, but many temporary classrooms and creative thinking and working through staff and those adjustments that are, the short-term pain for a long-term gain. Science renovation, this furniture selection, what this screen is really showing us is multiple months of thinking about what does furniture look like and how do we bring voice to that. So we worked with our furniture vendor in this space to bring in a couple examples of furniture. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Get students sitting in it, students giving feedback. Mike Volo got very creative in taking some of these prints. What you see in the top right with the sticker dots is what those are. Is we can't set up a small group room with all these different furniture settings to get kids in them, using them, giving us feedback. So Mike went around, talked to students about what the spaces are, gave them dots to put what they see themselves using in small space work. And there were multiple of these posters around, and we used that feedback to help kind of guide where the furniture was going to go just for this first smaller section of these science classrooms. Mike, you have anything to add for that?
I would say kids appreciate, being asked, and they don't necessarily gravitate towards what you might think they would. They're always surprising. And, the things that they appreciate on furniture may or may not be that which you would as an adult. So it's just, getting their perspective as best we can. And they really, whether they're freshmen or seniors, want to be able to give that feedback. So there wasn't a student who I asked if they wanted to talk and come out and take a look at all of them and give feedback. They all want to. They do. So, and even we have some of the furniture hanging out in the commons right now, and we can continue to see kids gravitate towards certain things, use them, and like them, and give feedback and very strong opinions sometimes of what they like and don't.
You've got some pretty entertaining comments, right?
100%, yes. If you have the comments turned on a forum, you're gonna get some comments.
Comment box. I think what's unique about this is really the intentionality about getting students into space, getting their voice in it, thinking about what we want that learning environment to be, not just now, but decades to come. So these 3 small group rooms that will be finished with this science renovation have a variety of different furniture from student feedback, but it's also going to continue to give us feedback for the spaces that'll be developed in the CTE space, where there's going to be a couple more small instruction rooms. So we'll start to know what's holding up well, what's getting utilized the most, and then also bring in newer technology or newer learning along the way. School calendar we've talked about often, but we are back August 24th. Students are back, educators are back the 19th, sorry. Students are back the 24th this year, but it gets us out for Memorial Day next year, allowing that really long summer. So we keep reminding people we're working the same amount of days, that students are in school the same amount of days. It's just slightly shifted. And I know that it might feel a little different in August this year, but I think it'll feel really good in May next year when we're out of school in June and students are out playing and their friends in neighboring districts are still in. So we're appreciative of the flexibility and know it takes a while to get used to change. So student engagement, like I've said, multiple opportunities. Andy Thompson and Mike Volo are really going to talk about the variety of ways they brought student voice into this project through time.
Yeah, thanks, Annalee. So you've seen really great spaces, and now it's how can we utilize some of these spaces with kids and kind of continue that intentionality of involving kids in the process is what we're going to kind of talk about. So Mike Hacker kind of approached me back in December. Mike Volo was there as well. Like, how can we lean on some of our partners to kind of provide opportunities for students? So between, you know, our subcontractors, you know, kind of some of the other kind of partners that Mike has, that Andy Daniels had, how can we come up with a plan to kind of have a process to kind of engage them with students? So we kind of met and collaborated. Kind of what you'll see up here is basically a continuum. And this is kind of based on kind of DPI, and it's kind of the continuum of career-based learning experiences. It kind of goes from like the really small, like least amount of time up to the biggest amount of time that you would spend like with students. You know, low impact would be like coming in to speak to students. High impact would be hosting them on site for kind of a youth apprenticeship, 450 hours within a school year, and everything kind of in between. So we kind of came together and kind of provided some information for our partners because they need to be informed and educated as well. Like, what do these things kind of look like? What are they? And we kind of provide the information to them, sent out a survey to them, and as you saw kind of on the previous slide, some of the partners that were kind of committed to this work were these up here on the right.
And just to, you know, reiterate the process and, you know, take a step back, one of the things that from a district leadership to, you know, like throughout this process has been, you know, part of why we work with the partners we work with in CD Smith is we expected engagement of our students in this manner. So that's one of the things we expect from every one of our partners we bring on, every partner they bring on, is that they make these opportunities for students. So it's not just something that we sat around and said, "I'll be nice." It's built in and it's expected. So, you know, it comes to delivering that. Like the kids have this experience. Some of them won't even live and work in this, right? Many of our students won't work currently at the high school, but they still get to benefit from this project happening while they're in school. In ways even the kids who get the full, you know, experience, the fifth graders or whatever it is, will not get, right? Because then it's already built. So we really do expect that. We appreciate that partnership and the leadership that made this part of the process as we went through it.
Yeah.
So didn't want to lose that.
No, that's a good thought. I think, you know, when I was reviewing notes from this, something that Mike Hacker had kind of added that I thought was a great insight was how do we ask the partners about college internships? So that way when our students are kind of graduating, they can continue on to some of these places and then that kind of bridges that gap and they kind of continue on their journey post-high school with us and kind of involving those partners.
Yeah, it's a project of this duration, right?
Mm-hmm.
Seniors this year are gonna be halfway done with college, right? If you think of it that way, they're gonna really be thinking about their careers, of which might align with a lot of the vendors we're working with right now. So I think an important perspective.
Yeah, yeah. So what you'll see here is these are companies that we've already kind of done things with, or things are scheduled very closely. So on the subsequent slides, you'll see photos of kids doing a lot of really great things.
Yeah, so, and, you know, Andy talked about that experience and that continuum of experiences that are work-based and community-based. So, you know, like CD Smith was kind enough to work with our construction students when it came to, you know, helping build those dugouts, right? And I think the expectation oftentimes from, you know, a contractor is, yeah, well, we'll see, you know, and then we'll do something, take a picture, you guys go on your way, and then our kids are skilled enough and their guys are great enough where, like, they put them to work because our kids do good work. So what you see there, and if you've been down to the baseball field and seen the things, I mean, it really is pretty neat in terms of what our kids are doing. And that continues, I think, next week, just during the construction update, there'll be an additional thing of looking at some of the precast panels with the construction group during a first block class. But, you know, when our kids can get put to work, you know, we'll try to do that, and not just in a way where one person watches and everybody else, you know, like, doesn't get to try something. But again, like having these things be built in, and that's really that, you know, project base that exists within a class is so much greater than just, hey, it'd be really nice to talk about what it is you do. Even though we have really great guest speakers, I think, coming on down the road, which is the next slide, Mike. Mr. Hacker is in there. So our sophomore class previously had one day of many speakers that kids would go through, and what we're trying to do with our different academic career planning things is really have students opt into different experiences over the course of a year. So I can, you know, speak and pick on Mike. His speaking was really well received in terms of talking about, you know, his pathway and what he does in his work. Our students then who are interested in that pathway had an opportunity to get that exploration and hear that during that sophomore year that's so important. And as we think about things, there's going to be an idea of like repeating those throughout next year, growing those, because again, like instead of having one day with a bunch of speakers in the Sabre Center, which we had previous this year, now it's having just different opportunities throughout the course of time where we can get all our sophomores through and have them get captured in the moments where they want to, explore things they're interested in. Anything you want to add, Mike, about the students you talk to or anything else?
No, and doing this with lots of school districts, we always talk about doing it, right? We always have partners that say, we'd be happy to do it. Props to the Franklin team for taking the action to put this in motion and actually connect the dots, having a survey of all the vendors, saying this is what we'd be interested in, and then going out to the staff, finding opportunities like I was able to plug into, is usually the missing piece of the puzzle that here is landing, and you're seeing, I think, some examples of that. And whether it's a low impact, I think you considered me a low impact, just for the record.
I heard it too.
It's less involved on the
Less
continuing.
involved, less involved.
Just making sure. Whether it's that for, a 45-minute presentation, a quick hit, or it's something more hands-on, I think hopefully we're seeing opportunities for students across the board to get plugged into this project in some way.
I will add one really kind of great story, not with Mike, but with a physical therapist we had come in.
No, I'd rather it be
You know,
Mike.
so one of my advisees didn't sign up to go somewhere and defaulted to me, and I was in there with the physical therapist, and I'm like, well, you need to stay in here because that's where you're going to be today. And afterwards, he set up a meeting with this counselor because he went out on his own and researched physical therapy, decided that physical therapy was too much school, but now wants to be a physical education teacher, and changed all of his classes, and now he's going to take some foundations of education classes and change his entire junior and senior year of classes. So because he was kind of pushed to be in there, kind of we saw that, and that was a great story, I thought, of somebody that was looking more towards maybe trades or something else. Now is okay, I kind of want to work with people, and I like this, but this is too much school, but then I can be a physical education teacher, and looked up all on his own, scheduled the meeting, did all that. So that was a real good success story from one of the speakers that we kind of had there a few weeks ago. So.
And in this one, I don't have glasses on right now, so I see Paige.
Yep, Paige is in there.
And
Megan's in there.
yeah, Paige and Megan.
Yep.
So we had two members of our PRE team come in and meet with our design capstone students, so Linda Krause's students. You can see Linda on the right-hand side of the screen there. And really, again, just being generous with time to come through and talk about things where these are the students who do take on different projects and have design spaces from beginning on to the end. And having the opportunity to actually talk to people, and then not just meet in the classroom, but meet in the innovation hub. Just that small thing of it's a little tight in there for the class, but it's not a huge class, and then they can be surrounded by all the things that go along with the project. Which again, that's not why they're there, but it also is a benefit of being in there.
It's all girls.
Our design, pathway with Mrs. Krause tends to get more girls. Our engineering pathway tends to get more boys. When they cross-pollinate, it's really great because they oftentimes use some of the same software. They get some of the same, expertise when it comes to design process and thinking. And it is one of those pieces where, you're not wrong, and in terms of students gravitate more one way or another. Interior design, inspired design. We even changed sewing to machine sewing to make it feel a bit more accessible to everybody, where it doesn't feel, for one, side of the gender, equation there.
I can jump in here. So Summit Fitness. So one of the spaces that the board took a look at during our open house was the fitness center. And if you remember in that image, you saw a lot of different equipment within that space. Early in the process, the district identified a partner in Summit Fitness, which is also Matrix, that does a lot of K-12 fitness center space. They have a high expertise, also located right in Caledonia. So kind of a local partner. One of their commitments to the district was to make Franklin a feature district for them, one that when they bring in folks to tour their facility, they're able to come 10 minutes up the road to Franklin and see their equipment in action, make a commitment to the district to bring in demo pieces and demo equipment to try out. So as they want to test things, Franklin becomes a host site to do that perpetually into the future. So looking for a long-term partnership. So not only have they offered to bring on, I believe it's potentially 2 youth apprentice positions.
So I went down for the tour and the facility. It was amazing to see the facility and how all that equipment is made and the process. And the HR member, I believe it's Kyle there, I challenged him and I said, hey, sometimes what happens with students is they need to be able to read some information about the youth apprenticeship. And he came up with, I've never seen job descriptions that are 2 pages each for an industrial engineer and a maintenance individual. So there is kind of some students that are in the process of kind of working to be hired by them. That'll probably start in the summer. But it was exciting that we kind of asked and they kind of stepped up and they were kind of willing to, descriptions, so then kids can kind of read what's expected of them and, see like, that they're reporting to the director of operations was cool for one kid for this, and another one's reporting to some engineer, and it was just like really cool to kind of see the kids like feel like they were being taken serious. And I think that's what the young people really appreciate, is when adults kind of take them serious. And the fact that, they took the time to kind of write those shows that they're serious. Because, I can ask, a lot of time places, okay, you want a kid, like, come up with something, and then it doesn't always kind of get done. And the fact that they did that was really a great kind of testament to them.
Yeah, and they have followed through with the equipment already. So if you go to the fitness center today in the high school, you'll find a PCC in the photo there, kind of in that center photo. That's already in the space being used by students that the PE teachers and coaches are being asked to gather feedback from. We've had an opportunity with the core team to go into that space and Cordell and take a look at that and talk about what we like and don't like. Really great piece of the story is that center photo. You see the gentleman with the black shirt on there, Troy. Troy is the director of operations for Matrix, kind of a key leader within their organization, a Franklin family, Franklin resident. That's his son that he's standing next to, is a Franklin High School student right now on the swim and dive team, and showing up to take a look at the equipment, seeing his son in the weight room, right? Going to referendum, making a commitment to kind of support the local community and our families. Not a better opportunity to point that out than I think this. So far, a really good partner and hopefully a long-term partner for the district going forward. And then in this, Dr. Bennon had started to note this, but again, just to reiterate, really looking to gather student voice in furniture selection and one of what will be multiple phases of furniture purchases as each of these portions of the building is turned over. We're going to continue to look for ways to bring these pieces in. These are all demonstration pieces. You see them in the classroom. There a lot of dialogue in science about high top versus low top. Science classrooms, we want to be sure we have a lot of high safety factor. So we're always worried about backpacks and jackets and clutter in those spaces. So we talked a lot about backpack hooks and can we hang them on chairs or on the table? What does that look like? And lesson learned, maybe students don't sit backwards in chairs like we thought they would. That was a big.
There's a fun fact that all the chairs we demoed, I think except one, are built to be sit, forward or backward. The designers, Debbie, I see your face there. It seems surprising to you as well. And when I said that to a kid, a current senior said, who's doing the announcements this week? There's one or two then. You can narrow it down if you come to high school. But she said, why would anyone ever sit like that? I'm like, I don't know. But she looked at me like I had two heads. And I'm like, just the lack of possible empathy and understanding of why someone would choose to do that. And again, that's how, schools oftentimes are built. You're in front of a desk or whatever. But
I would just add to that, the two optimist ladies at the middle school could not figure out our furniture there either. Like, they were in and they were holding on to the tables and they were like this. And I said, I know, I have to grab onto it too when I sit down, otherwise the chair shoots across the room. And they were just like, you really have this kind of thing? I'm like, yeah.
We're gonna, again, we're gonna have things built in that also, not only are, safe in science classrooms, build in some different sensory features. You really try to capture different ways students want to learn within there. So even the idea of having different height tables and different chairs where stuff is somewhat interchangeable, right, and can be remixed based on the students that we have and what they need and prefer. But we're gonna have a couple different chair types, for example, that are in there with just again small features that do add some things to the chair that whether or not everybody utilizes it will benefit all kids.
And that bottom right photo, if you went to the high school right now, you'd see all these pieces sitting in the commons immediately outside of our innovation hub space. So it's been really fascinating to watch our team meeting, talking about these spaces. Meanwhile, look out the window and see students sitting in these chairs, moving around as they're doing their classwork. And again, in real time, passive observation, but that doesn't happen unless we make sure it happens, right? And set up those opportunities. And then I'll just cue it up for the team. this doesn't stop, right? So the goal is for this to just continue on in both formally and functional, like targeted activities, which Andy will note, and just, spontaneous opportunities as we see them as we're going.
Yeah, so CD Smith has hired a student. So May 13th, there'll be a signing day in the main commons at 1:15. So we'll have, the backdrop, we'll have, the hard hats, everything there to celebrate it. And that's, one of the more exciting days to see the young person kind of, embark on that journey. I guess, Grunau was mentioned in a photo. So they have an event kind of pending, so we don't have photos yet. I went and toured there, and it was really cool because being a former business teacher, seeing how they have so much of the process vertically integrated with like the sheet metal that's made on site and everything is like really kind of unique and really just cool to see that. And they're going to be hosting our engineering capstone students with some of their engineers to do a tour, but then I challenged them to put together a 45 minute to an hour competition. So I'll break off into teams, and I challenge them to see what it is, and they were like, yeah, we'll come up with something cool. So they'll do that, and, slowly along the way, I think that eventually that'll lead to some opportunities of students to work in a youth apprenticeship there. Definitely with kind of sheet metal or some other things. Plumbing is kind of maybe not fully there for high school yet. We're kind of working talks with them, but definitely they'll look at that and hopefully have some students there starting soon. So.
And then working closely, one of the kind of new technology tools that the CD Smith team is using on a weekly basis is to fly a drone around the site. And it's not just, it gathers photos and video, which is, good just update, but it also is LiDAR technology. So we're able to get topography and elevations, and we've used it to map out stormwater movement and quantify how much earth is there being moved. And so it's a really fascinating piece of technology, trying to leverage the next opportunity they're out there to align with the robotics club and make sure students have an opportunity to learn about that technology, touch it, feel it, talk about, it as a profession, like that folks, this is something I think is really cool and exciting, but folks make a living working with this every single day. I think a big opportunity, we want to be sure we're going to capitalize on that. So that's in the process right now of planning.
So then the really exciting part is, did we do it and did we stay on budget, or is the goal right now to stay on budget? So we've talked a few times throughout the last, more than 6 months, we've been putting bids out probably since last summer. I think was maybe our first bid package.
4th or 5th, somewhere in there, yeah.
Yeah,
Almost a year
so
ago.
it's been a journey, and we're gonna talk a little bit about what it means to be a bid package and why that was important in our journey. But this overview sheet, which is always in the treasurer's report in the board docs too, is I think the exciting part, because we're talking about what are those capital improvement projects that are district owned. So you see those in the bottom right. That's a big shout out to Andy Daniels and his team, because he's really managing those projects. Those are a number of the projects, more specifically usually at the 5 elementary schools, but then also some crossover with CD Smith on where those areas that it pays to overlap and have CD Smith own it, because it maybe is cement and we're doing it at the high school and we need it at some elementaries, so we can work on those bids. FHS, CD Smith managing, that's the major portion that we're seeing at the high school. So again, in that bottom right, and then the district soft cost, that's district managing in other areas. I think to break that down a little more, and this is like the drum roll, exciting, we've hit guaranteed maximum price. That's a really big deal. I've learned even more about what a big deal that is, right? We agreed on this price. The community said they agree on this price. And here's what our investment is doing, but now we know that we've hit that and we're locked in, and continuing to work through that. And I'm gonna let Mike talk a little deeper, and Andy even, about what do those bid packages mean? Like, where do we benefit from that? And they'll kick to Phil to talk deeper on that too, and Mitch. And then also like the value engineering, like what does that mean for us, and how did that help us in this process?
Yeah, so the guaranteed maximum price essentially is the total contract value that CD Smith now is responsible to deliver. So the vast majority of the referendum, right, which falls almost all at the high school, everything you've seen tonight, all the future phases, a lot of the CIP that was targeted there, is now CD Smith's responsibility to deliver at this price, which you saw on the last slide is on budget, right? So that's the big, headline statement, is we crossed this critical threshold to establish by far the most significant portion of the referendum, and are in a position to say that everything to date is fully on budget. So that's a very big positive, obviously high fives all around. That doesn't just happen. So we wanted to kind of map out some of the things. So as Dr. Bennett noted, we've had almost a year's worth of bidding, right? So obviously parts of this building are being built way before other parts. There are strategies, meaning we could design the full envelope, the outside of the building, while we are still designing the inside of the building, meaning we're still picking paint colors and floor finishes. We can advance bidding other parts sooner. We can take advantage of pre-inflation prices. We can start construction sooner, right? So over the course of this past year, the CD Smith team has worked to break out 5 bid packages, okay? And inside of each of those 5, there are 60 total individual bid categories, okay? So in one bid package, maybe 10 or 12 individual bids, if that makes sense, okay? And each one of those is required to have multiple bidders, right? And go out to the market competitively. Everything is done as an official bid day, so there's like a threshold, a deadline that has to be met. Those are opened within CD Smith's office. The district on a couple occasions has gone up to Fond du Lac to their headquarters and went to the bid room and watched those bids come in, and those spreadsheets get populated and kind of go through that experience alongside that team. There are certain categories that CD Smith does self-perform, okay? So we want to just hit on that, meaning CD Smith is the construction manager, so they're overseeing and managing the budget and the timeline, but they also have categories that they as a company would bid on, okay? And so always very important when we identify those potential bid packages that there's a process to ensure that there's transparency and that we're getting multiple bids, and effort's been put in place to be sure we're encouraging others to bid, so we have as much competition in those categories as possible. So had a process in place to manage that, and that I think happened in 3 of the 5 bid packages. We had different self-performance bids that the district worked closely both with CD Smith and through myself as the owner's rep, reaching out to other vendors to be sure we were driving up as much competition in those categories as possible. Okay.
Can I ask a quick question about that? I seem to recall there being some conversation about areas where we simply weren't able to get, I think you like to have at least 3 bids in each category. Can you give me a sense of how frequently that happened across these 6 bid packages?
Yeah, I go back and like the 1 or 2 of them, we did not get additional bidders in those categories, despite efforts both by CD Smith, by Cadence on behalf of the district reaching out. Every single bid category, not just the self-performance, but all 60 of those categories had a list of vendors that were sought, that do this work, they're pre-vetted to be able to do work at this scale, whatever size that package was. That list was built both by CD Smith and their experience as well as the district. So Andy, myself, PRA was able to voice other firms or companies they've worked with in each of those categories. So for the self-performance categories, I reached out to every one of those other contractors, expressed clear desire for them to strongly consider the project, made sure they understood when they were bidding to Cadence Consulting, not to CD Smith. So not only did CD Smith, were they required to submit their bid to Cadence, but all the other vendors as well. As a competitor, you may have paused submitting your number to your competitor, right? And so we just eliminated that from the process. So yes, to answer your question, we did have 2 categories, I believe, that we did not receive additional bids in. We also had categories that CD Smith was not the low bidder. Okay, so I just want to note that as well. And as good partners to the district, they actually recommended going with an alternative partner there because it was in the best interest of the district. So again, that's when this goes well, that is the goal, right? Is that we have a transparent process. We try to drive as much competition as we can. It is a busy time. There's a lot of construction going on. We have a lot of data centers and mega projects that's sucking up a lot of labor. Folks are cautious at what they pursue if they can't get it done. So we did hear that regularly, that folks have a full book of work and they're only going to go after things that they know they can do at a high level. So that was a consistent piece of feedback we got throughout the process.
Thank you.
Yep. So with that said, as you might imagine, for a year, we need to ensure that we're tracking on budget. And after each bid package, we reassessed where we sat with the overall budget. Okay, meaning if we bid under budget or slightly over budget, we look closely at value engineering. We work closely with the architects and the engineers to create bid alternates. So categories where we may bid multiple flooring types to see what one would give us the best price. So on bid day, we can make some decisions about what, you know, what the right option might be. That value engineering exercise happened after each bid package and is still happening, to be honest, right? So even though we've crossed this threshold, there have been a number of voluntary alternates that folks have brought forth to say, hey, you know, if you consider this light fixture versus this light fixture, there's a savings. Before we just take it, we're vetting, what is that difference? Is it of, you know, is it worth the savings or not? And so that process will continue, and any of that savings obviously just comes back into the ability to invest into other things within the project. So very successful to date. And then obviously we didn't, you know, just open up the envelope 2 weeks ago and say, okay, we're on budget and felt good, right? This has been a thorough analysis, detailed review of line items, closely looking at scope, you know, amount of scope. Are we staying on track with what we said we were going to do? I think posted in our innovation hub are the guiding principles to the project. So every time we're looking at budget, we're running that back through the guiding principles, right? Are we tracking on these? Are we making decisions that reinforce the goals that we you know, set out at the outset? So very successful process, I will say, and others feel free to chime in. This doesn't happen on every project, right? Especially not of this size and complexity in the bid climate we're in with how much work is out there and increases to construction inflation. I think props to everybody involved, and you know, kind of a nerdy moment on our end of GMP excitement, right? That doesn't always translate outside of our industry bubble, but is, I would say, on behalf of the district, a very important threshold to step through. And now we're managing within that and are going to continue to provide updates as we go forward.
Well, as a board member who supported this, you know, from the get-go, it's very, very reassuring to hear this. Because if you were telling a different story, I'd be like, you know, what am I going to tell people who ask, and are you on budget and all that kind of stuff. So it's very reassuring for me as someone who has supported this to hear your report.
Yep. Yeah, and I will say, you know, this is a big, complex project. There are still risks out there. We have a lot of construction ahead of us, right? We have contingencies in place, and the things that are highest risk we're tracking on a regular basis. So knock on wood, you know, we'll continue to go in the right direction here. But so far, the team in place is working really well. We've problem solved. We've collaborated through, you know, the moments of challenge that when we've had them. And so far, we're in a position to come to you tonight with, I think, very positive news. I think in transition, one of the things we did.
Really quick, Mike, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, in one of the presentations, the revenue generated from the interest and from the bonds, which kind of 145 million, is that going to go into the total price and get this down, or how's that?
Yeah. Yep, and so we can certainly loop Andy Cromie in further conversations around this, but right now that's factored into the overall project. Okay, so when we look at the total 151 million of things, both as broken out, the CIP projects, the projects you see on the screen here, and CD Smith scope, as well as the soft costs for the project, that interest that was approved to proceed into the project is factored into all projects across the entire scope of the referendum. So quick answer is yes, right? But it's blended into the total revenue available to complete all the work that's being planned across all those categories.
Through that discussion we had last May when we agreed to how much interest. Yeah. Andy, I would maybe ask really quick too before we go on, give one example of like value engineering. I know we listed areas we looked at were flooring, mechanical, fixture, but like what's one good example of what that looks like to kind of correlate for everybody?
So she's gonna put me on the spot with one only, but it was like Mike said, it was very successful process, because I think too often value engineering we think is kind of like we're not getting the quality that we planned for, but we did. But just a couple that come to mind. I'm sorry. There's things that like insulation on piping, right? Yeah, right. You can relate, Katie, right? You know, hydronic heating needs insulation on piping, and it needs a jacketing in areas that's maybe exposed to custodial closets where carts might bang into them, right? That jacketing costs money. However, we found that there's areas in the building that we're going to receive jacketing that is up so high, nobody's ever going to bump into it. And it's amazing when you start thinking about all the linear feet of piping and insulation and jacketing, how that dollar value will add up. We didn't reduce any quality of the project, right? Another one is just, you know, waste line piping, right? There was a spec for stainless steel in some areas. Well, while our engineers are really good at designing things, right? They put it in there for a reason. They were at the table when we started value engineering or having these discussions, but people like CD Smith says, we think that we can go to CPVC on some of those areas and reduce the amount of that type of piping or another material to save money. So those are two good examples that I just recall having a huge dollar value that we were able to, you know, reduce and, you know, value engineer and put money back into the project. And there's a plethora of opportunities that we did take. There's also opportunities that were presented that we didn't take. So our HVAC tech, Ed, he was involved in some of the mechanical decisions. And Ed and I vetted out a lot of the manufacturers that we want to have in this school district. And right or wrong, right, they presented to us, well, you know, we know you want a yellow boiler, but have you ever thought about a Cleaver Brooks? Yeah, we're absolutely open-minded to that. Let's take a look at it. However, we want to go with the Riellos. So we went through that process. There's even, when you start value engineering, we even added some scope. So there's better ways to control some of the building, or excuse me, control some of the heating systems, right? Well, there's been some new technology that wasn't really thought of. Ed and I started introducing that into projects through the CIP scope that we're managing. And that was not caught in this part of the project, so we added that in, which did actually increase the cost of the project. But we were able to recognize savings in a lot of other areas without, again, reducing quality, so.
I need to chime in as the architect in VE. Sometimes VE makes architects like twitchy a little bit. This process, and it sounds like we're patting each other on the back, this wonderful team, but this is really true. So the VE process doesn't always go, as Mike said, doesn't always go like this. We're in a different position, and we're not necessarily looking for value as much as money. That was not the case here. And what is Andy gave these great examples. This team had the time, the foresight. Some of these things were options built in, designed in, even before we got to the VE process. So we had real market-driven data to make informed decisions on. So this is truly a process that had the community's best interest in mind, and getting the best possible quality and best true value for the community long term. So this is truly a testament to the work of all of these guys. And again, a special shout out to Andy Daniels. We do not always have the insights, the level of sophisticated knowledge from the owner side to really think these things through and be able to make these kind of value-based decisions. So this is truly a special process. So when we hear value engineering, sometimes we think, are we getting what we should be getting? Yes. In fact, you're getting a better value and a better product for it in this case.
So the one other item we wanted to hit on tonight, just to cue this up, was local participation. So one of the things I think all heard pre-referendum from community members was, you know, what are we gonna do to be sure we invest as much of this money locally as possible? That was translated to all of us pre-referendum. The admin team translated it to the core design and construction team. Really saying, bring forward as many paths forward so we exhaust every opportunity to invest locally as possible. So tonight, what we've asked CD Smith to do is put a summary together. So within that GMP that we had on the last slide there, how much of that is being invested locally? And so I think critical for us is that a project of this size also generally means there are big dollar amounts to these contracts, right? Which sometimes precludes local contractors from being able to approach or bid on because they're just too large. They don't have the workforce or maybe the bonding capacity to pursue projects of this size. So CD Smith has worked to strategically identify who are some of those local contractors, what type of work. Let's maybe break apart that 60 different bid categories I referenced. That's probably more than we would see in other districts, in an attempt to try to break them down such that we could allow more local participation. And I think the bottom line here, which I'm gonna steal Phil's line here for a second, but just to recognize almost $27 million of this total referendum is committed to 3 contractors that are within 5 miles of the high school, right? I mean, what a takeaway to say, 3 of the most important companies a part of this project, at that dollar amount, you as a district are committing that much of the referendum funds directly to them is really impressive. Okay, and so we did ask Phil to put together kind of an overview and maybe talk through a little bit of what this looks like as a total investment.
Yeah, so I guess just starting from as we were publishing these bid packages, I think we made a concerted effort as we were going through all of our pre-qualified bid lists to make sure we were identifying those local contractors, we were reaching out, we're bringing them the process so we knew who they were. We worked with Andy, just with who does work kind of in the district, and kind of who they know that are out there, just because we wanted to make sure we were capturing anyone that could look at it in this area. I think the second piece here, this is a lot about the companies. We did ask a lot of information on manpower and the people that are actually out there and how many employees they had in the district. It's a little harder to track it and actually put any data up there, but all of our contractors are making a concerted effort of, hey, I've got 10 guys that live in Franklin. I'm gonna make sure that as many as possible are on the project then once they're awarded the work as well. So we don't really have any stats up there, but it is, every contractor is making an effort just to make sure that those people, and a lot of these people do have connections. They went to the school, they live here, their kids go to the high school, to make sure that they have the opportunity to actually be on site as well and help build this project.
Yeah, local is always a tough one. I mean, what does local mean, right? I mean, we have certainly concrete for precast that's being precast and brought from other places in Wisconsin, and that's always great to invest in Wisconsin, but we're also uniquely located here, right? It's hard to say just Milwaukee County or, just put a radius. So Phil and the team have identified really Milwaukee, Racine, Waukesha as kind of what we had determined as local for this analysis. And in that, I think have seen great success, and these aren't just, these are firms that have been vetted, that either work with the district today or do a lot of work with C.D. Smith, and there's a high level of confidence, not just being local, but they're obviously the right fit and are gonna do a great job for the district.
Can you just tell me what each of those 3 do?
So Lee Mechanical is a mechanical contractor. So they're located right on Ryan Road, just south of the high school. Gruno's the plumber, and then Edgerton's earthwork, site utilities, and demolition.
Thank you.
Yeah, so all those trucks of dirt you're seeing going from the site, that's Edgerton. Yep. All those street sweepers you're seeing going by, it's because of Edgerton. Yep.
They all drive so slow.
Yeah.
I'm always behind them.
Yeah. So with that said, we wanted to share that as a kind of a exclamation point, if you will, on, not just do we have great news to share in terms of being on budget and crossing these key thresholds, but also an expectation that was set that we then pushed through to the team. We, I think, are very proud of the data we're able to share tonight there.
So thanks to the team for being here and all the pieces that we've brought forward. We'll answer questions obviously too, but next steps, always trying to project forward. So we'll get all of tonight's information up on the website. Chad's been thinking a lot through how do you do 360s online? So we'll get that set up. We have a branding wayfinding committee that's together to kind of look at not just from numbering classrooms at the high school to where are we branding within it? How are we thinking differently and innovatively about that, other than just decals everywhere? With that, looking at a sponsorship package, what do we want that to look like or not look like in Franklin? You see different businesses that sponsor Fieldhouse or Fields, things like that. So we're starting conversations there to bring forward and think about. And then looking at our update number 8, we thought would probably fall best in fall, kind of get through the summer project, see where we end up, to report out on that and where we're going next. In that, we hope can include a tour of the science labs and whatever is a safe site within the construction site at that point in time to walk through the high school. So that's kind of exciting things to look forward to. But any questions or anything different you want to see in the next presentation?
Do you envision having a continuation of these mentorships into different areas? Obviously now it's construction and pouring concrete and the sports area, but when it gets to the CTE and the other spaces, are there going to be similar opportunities for mentorships?
Yeah, I would say absolutely there'll be opportunities. I think that from what I found, 5 years, it takes time to build these relationships. And by starting now, hopefully then by the time the spaces get done and we get there, we'll have really great relationships that can continue on for, past the project and, for years to come.
Yeah, a big part of the CTE area is all the equipment that goes into those spaces. And right now, we've done a thorough effort with the staff to identify what type of equipment, the quantity of them, how to lay that out in the space. We're also going to continue to leverage the relationships with these partners to continue to say, okay, if these students are leaving the high school ready to enter your workforce, what do they need to know, and is this the right equipment, right? So we're about to cross into the phase of starting to identify that equipment and select which pieces, and we'll continue to lean on those vendors, not just for student employment and involvement, but also how they can help influence, the layout and the equipment that we're buying to be sure it's the right investment.
And to add to that, it was fun. About 2 weeks ago, Andy and I presented to the Business Park Consortium. And it was an update on where we're at with the projects of some of the images you saw in January, the key communicators. But then also we kind of front loaded a little, we're looking at sponsorship opportunities. We're looking at partners because it'd be great, right, to have any partners that we have in our business park that do work similar to what we're building in the high school, let's partner now. And it was, I think, really rewarding to see how lit up the room got and how excited they were and tell us more. So it was a great first glimpse. You kind of drop that little bit of water in the bucket, see what you get. It had a good ripple effect. So it'll be exciting to kind of get a few of those pieces together, go back to those partners, to what Andy's saying, and how are we getting students there? How are we getting them in? How are they influencing what we need to think about for equipment? Because it's what they need their future workforce trained in. Just so many opportunities for overlap there.
I really appreciated this information on the amount of the work you were able to keep in the local area. So thanks for the time you took both to make that happen and then to present the data to us. And when you're talking about how the all of the subcontractors are making a concerted effort to try and bring their Franklin teams on, it would be amazing at the completion of this project if any of those local people were able to be with us in some capacity.
Yeah.
Just as a, especially if that kids in
Great
the
idea.
district,
Keep track.
it's cool.
Add a tab to the spreadsheet of everybody's name and put them on the invite list.
I don't know.
Just one last thing. So I know when I go to other communities, it's they'll have up on the wall some pictures of the marching band from the high school or some other shout out to the community they're in. So I think these sponsorship packages hopefully would allow kind of a two-way thing where it'd be yeah, we're sponsoring the high school. Look at, in our business that they shout out to the district because we're obviously an integral part of Franklin, a big, huge part. And sometimes you go into businesses and you'd never know it. So I would love to see us working collaboratively with businesses, not only to get their signs out on our campus, but to get our signs into their businesses, if that makes sense.
It does, yeah. Well said. As an extension of the branding discussion, very naturally the dialogue is, well, if approached by, or if we decide to approach a local business, or maybe a family comes along and wants to do a memorial thing or something, are we in a position to actively take that seriously? And it's one thing just to say, yes, we'll accept your money, right? It's another thing to say, well, what, from a business standpoint, what is the payback of that? How do we establish a long-term relationship so it's not a one-off thing? It's something that we can build in perpetually. What is the value add of that? And especially you start to look at a facility like this, which the foot traffic in and out of that field house on a weekend basis and, in and out of the CTE and the long-term relationships where you see a local business name as a partner, it means a very different thing. And I think we're seeing that more and more in other districts around. That relationship is not just to bring students in, which is why we're here, but is also to create a business level transaction and relationship to obviously formalize that in a way that maybe brings in some additional revenue or partnership or equipment or whatever that may be. And that's an area that I think very important for the business office to really have a structure to, as it's a financial transaction. And everybody wants to encourage. We have a lot of very supportive booster clubs and parents and active coaches and folks that I'm sure would spread the word, but without a structure to do that so that it looks professional and is such that if it's a major ask, there's a clear understanding of what you get for that, right? Not just a name on a thing, but is there other benefit to that partnership? And so looking to create a sponsorship guide, a tool that the district could use to kind of create some formality to that as we go forward.
I think two comments which I want to make is that first of all, I think, including the students, the high school students in the project is a very unique onset, although our students have been building homes, but this kind of magnitude of a project, I think, gives them a very a unique experience to see how these projects are done, especially if you're thinking of architecture, engineering, any of that, trades as such. I think it's a very good experience. So thank you for doing that. Second, I think with the sponsorship packages, for example, again, I think the district with the business office, like if you go to the library, there's a bench, there's bricks and all that stuff. And I know usually kind of when the community project is going on, like all the brick is only cost $2, but just to have your name on and all that stuff, again, developing with the business office, some kind of a where you can have a bench, for example, if you want to have, and in memory of, for example, a lot of people want to have their loved ones be remembered in a good way as such. So maybe that's a good way of, raising some funds to help the district reinvest in the things which we need down the road.
Andy, where are we on the projects at the elementary schools in terms of completion? I know a lot of those were getting done last summer and
Yep.
were worked on.
So I'll be including some of that in the next board meeting when I give my update, but, I mean, the projects are gonna continue through the summer of 2028. For example, the Ben Franklin roof, right? We wanna push that out as far as possible, just because there's still a little bit of life in there, but we don't wanna miss the opportunity. It's close enough, especially once we get to 2028. So I'm holding like $1.5 million for that right now. That's not out to bid yet. We'll see where that comes in, but I'm managing that, so I make sure that I have those funds at the end of the project. And then there's other projects like that as well, but it's gonna continue. There's Pleasant View's getting a new boiler plant this summer. We're doing more roofs at the high school this summer. It just continues, and I'm happy to be sharing that with you guys in the next one. Yeah.
Any thoughts, questions? Thank you all for being here. Thank you for sharing all of this information and for all the work that you're doing and managing and all the different balls you're juggling. I really appreciate that, and we are grateful to hear from it, and we'll look forward to our next update.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on, then treasurer's report is available as always in the board docs library. Future agenda items. Our next meetings, we will have our tobacco poster winner presentation, our board self-evaluation discussion, the 26-27 student family handbook information, buildings and grounds annual report, so Andy's coming back. Capital improvement 10-year plan, also with Andy. The Neola board policy volumes 35-1, 2026-2027 preliminary budget, and district administrator evaluation. That'll be a closed session. And I am looking for a motion to enter into closed session.
So moved.
Pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 19.851C, district administrator self-evaluation of goals.
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made by Mrs. Yank, seconded by Dr. Beer. All in favor?
We need a voice vote.
Oh, can we have a roll call vote?
Sure. Mr. Sprague?
Aye.
I vote aye. Mrs. Sapersky?
Aye.
Dr. Khan?
Aye.
Mrs. Eckhart?
Aye.
Mrs. Yank?
Aye.
Mrs. Larson?
Aye.
We are in closed session at 7:28.
So
Oh,
moved.
do I have to say that there was no action taken during closed session? Looking for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mrs. Larson, seconded by Mrs. Yank, was it?
No.
That was me.
Oh, sorry. Dr. Beer? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? We are adjourned at 8:16.